the long and short of it is it makes it more difficult for people exposed to asbestos to hold the exposer accountable. So moving in exactly the opposite direction of the federal government.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
The Environmental Protection Agency finalized a rule, a risk management rule for chrysotile asbestos. The rule prohibits ongoing uses of the only known form of asbestos currently imported, processed, and distributed in the United States, and will protect people from lung cancer, mesothelioma, ovarian cancer, laryngeal cancer, and other health problems caused by asbestos exposure. These detrimental effects have been known about asbestos for decades, but bosses put profit above workers' health all the time, and they do now with continued asbestos production in the United States, as well as continued asbestos exposure in older homes and schools. That's one of the things that advocates are mentioning about how this law doesn't go far enough because it does not address legacy uses of the mineral. It doesn't do anything to safeguard the public from asbestos building products in older homes and schools, as I mentioned. But it's a step in the right direction, right? We've been moving in this direction regarding asbestos for decades. We've been moving towards, more bans of the product, increased worker protection, increased accountability for employers who utilize asbestos and expose their employees to these dangers needlessly. Right, that's kind of the direction that we've been going, and that direction is continuing with. It's worth noting a Democratic administration, and that doesn't mean anything other than just to note that as a fact, right? It's important to know the facts, and that's a fact. Meanwhile, in Alabama, from a Republican legislator, it remains to be seen if this is going to be passed. Hopefully it doesn't. I don't, certainly there's not a constituency for this proposed bill, but at least a broad constituency. There's a constituency in the employers who want to expose their workers to asbestos and be protected from accountability. That's the constituency for this bill, but it's not a very broad one. But this bill would make it more difficult for people exposed to asbestos to make claims against the people who expose them, particularly in a workplace environment. Appreciate Tara Bailey for hitting us up on this, because I haven't seen any news coverage about this at all. Have you, Adam?
No, I haven't. I have not.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that I haven't seen anything about that. AL.com, Alabama Political Reporter, I haven't seen anything at all about this piece of legislation, but it is incredibly draconian. And here it is. I'm just going to read the synopsis. So this was written by the guy who wrote the bill, right? This is like he wrote this, and then he finished writing it, and he was like, hell yeah, that's good. I like that. That's what I want to do with my time in Montgomery. Here it is. Under existing law, the plaintiff in an action for damages from asbestos exposure is required to provide the defendant with certain information. This bill would require a plaintiff to specify the basis for each claim against each defendant and provide additional, more detailed information relating to the asbestos exposure, including current and past work sites, and each individual who is knowledgeable regarding the exposures. Each individual. And if you actually read the bill, you have to include their name, phone number, and home address of each individual who's knowledgeable regarding the exposures. This bill would allow a defendant in an asbestos action to be dismissed from the action if not identified as required. This bill would also stay discovery, meaning prohibit discovery, in an asbestos action until the required disclosures have been made. And so discovery is an incredibly important process by which you can discover things about the person's state of mind in a case, right? Or, some of the, like, whether or not they knew what they were exposing people to, right? And so this is making it more difficult, making the process more onerous to make claims for asbestos exposure, and making it more difficult to find things from the employer. I mean, it's just just the long and short of it is it makes it more difficult for people exposed to asbestos to hold the exposer accountable. So moving in exactly the opposite direction of the federal government. And so, look, that's worth knowing. That's a thing that's worth knowing. And it's, incredibly draconian. And, it's premised on the assumption that it's just way too easy for people to make asbestos claims against asbestos exposers. And, look, I'm not an asbestos law expert. Okay, so, that caveat out there. I've just got an extremely difficult time buying that argument, right? I've got an extremely difficult time buying the argument that it's just super easy for people to make a claim against somebody that they exposed me to asbestos and I suffered damages that you need to compensate me for, right?
Right.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
I mean, that's just, look, if he wants to come on the program and explain to us how it's just super easy, and right now, actually under current law, you could do it without any justification at all, and it's just and people are paying out hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in cases where they're not guilty, obviously, then, look, he can come on and make the case. tvlr.fm/contact. Okay?
Representative Troy Stubbs.
Send us an email. Send us an email. tvlr.fm/contact. And look, you can come on and make that case. But that's just difficult for me to buy. I have reached out to a workplace attorney about this, waiting to hear back, but I will report next week on what I hear from him. And, look, I mean, maybe he'll agree, but I just have a hard time believing that he will. But there you go. State Representative Troy Stubbs, HB 91. HB 91, Speaker of the House. Who is
Nathaniel Ledbetter?
Nathaniel Ledbetter. The phone number is 334-261-0505, and request that that bill not be taken up, because that's a terrible bill. Senate Pro Tem Greg Reed, his phone number is 334-261-0894.
And you wanted to call him and urge him to oppose SB 231.
Oh, that's the voluntary recognition
That's
bill.
the anti-union bill that we mentioned in the main show. We're very concerned about that. All hands on deck. So if you want to fight that, holler at me.
And if you want to call Troy Stubbs, his phone number is 334-261-0595.
He's the one sponsoring the asbestos bill. So maybe you can ask him, where's this coming from?
And it's, I know that we have some reporters that listen to us. I would be interested in an open records request on this guy's communications and who he's talking to. I would also be interested in campaign donations. Who's donating to his campaign? What are the, have people who have donated to his campaign had to pay a bunch of money in asbestos cases? That would be something interesting to know, but I don't have the time to. Maybe I'm just going to text a couple of reporters that I know, see if they can figure that out. I don't have the time, and I don't have the know-how to figure all that out, but some people do, and maybe they will. So there you go.
Yeah. Appreciate folks keeping us posted on these bad bills. I mean, there are a lot of bad bills in the Alabama legislature right now. And I just encourage all of our folks who are listening, who are in Alabama, to reach out to your legislator. It's really easy to do that. It doesn't take much time. It really does make a difference. Even though, yes, there is a supermajority, Republican supermajority in the legislature. But even with that, regardless of your party or how you feel about them, every year there are bad bills that get defeated, and every year there are good bills that squeak through. Mm-hmm. And that only happens through advocacy and organizing and people getting involved. And it requires you to call your legislator. It requires you to email them, to write them, send them postcards. If you send them an email, print it out and mail it to them, mail it to the State House, right? There's different things you can do. Let your neighbors and your friends and your family know and get them to do the same thing. Longtime listeners know that I, in my day job, work for Alabama Arise, and I just want to plug their action alerts because that's an easy way you can contact your legislator. Go to alarise.org, click on the action alerts, and you will find ways to contact your senator, contact your representative, contact the governor. There are different ways to do it, but it really does take more and more people just speaking up, because here's the thing. Do you want the only folks they hear from to be the wackos and the corporate lobbyists? No, right? You want them to hear from everyday people. They need to hear from union members. They need to hear from progressive allies. They need to hear from working class folks in the community who they are supposed to represent, and they're supposed to work for us, right? And we have to remind them of that. So there's a lot of concerning bills. The ones we just mentioned today, SB 231 is the anti-union bill. HB 91 is the asbestos bill. The child labor bill is still working its way through the legislature. You'll remember that removes permits for 14 and 15-year-olds in school, making it easier for 14 and 15-year-olds to go to work. There's other issues as well. Public transportation is coming up in discussion. Folks may not be aware that Alabama invests $0 in public transportation funds. That's right, 0 state dollars go to public transportation, which is wild because there's matching funds for those dollars. In some cases, up to 4-to-1 matching from the federal government, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to help poor and working class people. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of bad bills criminalizing protest, and we've already seen successful efforts to criminalize diversity and equity and inclusion and ban so-called divisive concepts. There's just been a lot happening in the Alabama legislature. It's one of the busiest that I can remember in quite some time, and one of the worst, frankly. And so Again, I can't reiterate enough, it is worth it for you to build a relationship with your legislators, reach out to them, at least make them uncomfortable. If they're going to do something stupid, at least make them uncomfortable in the process.
And, you can actually request in-person meetings.
Yes, you can.
And a lot of them will do it because that's so rare. That they will actually do it, especially if you hound them about it enough.
Yeah, and bring your spouse, bring a couple folks from church, a couple folks from the union, right? Have a small group meeting with the legislator. That's possible. Participate in lobby days, and anytime you can go down to Montgomery. I'll plug the Arise lobby days, April 2nd. The AFL-CIO Roadkill Barbecue in Montgomery is April 3rd. That's 2 days back-to-back where you have a chance to interact with lawmakers in Montgomery, advocate for working people. So if you can make it there, do that. But if not, if you can't make it to Montgomery, that's understandable. We need your help with emails and phone calls and getting your neighbors activated and getting them involved. It really makes a big, big difference. I talked to a former legislator this week who told me, Adam, if I got 4 unique phone calls about a bill, I knew something was up. And I needed to, really take a look at it. And so 4 phone calls, right? And I'm not saying that's always going to win,
Right.
but damn it, we have to try. We do have to try. You know, I had someone being very dismissive to me this week about this sort of thing, saying, oh, well, you know, this is what you get. This is who the people voted for. And it's like, okay, are we supposed to just sit down for 4 years and take anything they push at us? No,
Right.
absolutely not. No, you speak up for what's right. And sometimes we can move legislators to do the right thing some of the time, right? On certain issues, right? Maybe not all of them, you know, even if it's one bill out of 100 that you get your representative to do the right thing. Hey, that's something. It's better than what we had, right? And that is the uphill battle that we face in Alabama. And I know it's daunting and discouraging, but it's important work. It has to be done. There are always efforts to undermine the quality of life for working people, which is already among the worst in the developed world here in Alabama. We deserve so much better. And the only way we're going to get better is when more and more working people are engaged.
Yep. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.